little bit hard to read, but hopefully it's clear on your laptops. You've got the accounts. You've got the affiliations. So affiliations is our current terminology for profiles. We'll take you through that. The managed organizations and the federal agencies. So we're focusing today on the affiliations and the organization side of things. But just to give you a quick synopsis and a quick overview of those particular options, this is the manage my account, very simple, straightforward. This is what would look, this is how it would appear when you first log into the system and you don't have any affiliations, you don't have anything in your profiles. It's very straightforward, very simple. This is, if you have the permissions, the organization view. And I'll talk a little bit more about this particular view. And the final one I won't get into right now, the federal agency side of things. We're currently building this out, but I want to show how we're molding and trying to create the landscape for the user experience. So I'm going to actually switch back and forth between two accounts, how it looks like from an individual perspective when they log in and they create an affiliation to an organization, and how it looks from an EBIS POC perspective. So I'll go right into the affiliations. So this is, again, like I said, this is how we are currently shaping the profiles page. One of the major things that we have made a change to is you no longer have to add an individual profile. It's inherent. When you create your account on Grants.gov, you automatically inherit the capabilities for an individual profile. So for example, creating or requesting an affiliation to an organization, everyone can go ahead and do that. Back up a little bit. I'll start to move a lot more, so don't worry. So I will go ahead and I'm actually going to add an affiliation and pick a company that I know, Aries, job title, affiliation name. And this is another major update to the system. So before I get into that, I just wanted to talk about the job title and the affiliation name. We've kind of relaxed some of the rules, the business rules around that. Before, you had to have a unique affiliation name. The job title was required. We're actually relaxing those rules. You can choose whatever affiliation name. You can have special characters. What we're doing is making it a little bit more flexible for the individual. And the last component here, which is the most important aspect when you're creating an affiliation, is the email address. Right now, when you are, and I'll actually show it to you, in the accounts, when you create an account, you have a primary email address that you've used to register. When you go to create an affiliation, what we're allowing is for you to determine whether you want to use your primary email address or you want to supply a new email address. And I can talk a little bit more about that if there's questions. If you happen to supply a new email address, the same security rules would have to apply there. If you notice, that's an email address that's not familiar to my user account. You get this verification is required for that. And there are more business rules around that, but I hope that that's pretty clear. So I'm going to go ahead and click add. And just like a quirk in the system, when you add an affiliation, you get a pending status. So this is another major thing that we've changed. What we're requiring now is for organizations to approve you. If someone is requesting to be affiliated to an organization, it requires someone on the other side to approve it. In order to maintain backwards compatibility, I guess you could say, there is a global setting for that organization that they can set, that they could click and basically say, you know what, everyone's approved. Anyone that requests an affiliation is automatically approved. So that we've got both functionalities in there, and I think that is a great way to basically give the power back to the organizations and to let them determine which direction they want to go in. So in this case right here, you've got that pending status. Before I flip over to another account, I want to show. I'm sorry, I should have zoomed in. While this affiliation is basically in the pending status, you still have the ability to come in and change the job title, change the affiliation name, and even change and update that email address for that. We will in the future be hiding this information because if you're not a part of that organization, you shouldn't be seeing the SAM data for it. And what you're seeing down here is kind of placeholders. As we're fleshing out and building the system, once you are affiliated with that organization, you are a participant, you'll see your roles, you'll see your workspace connections, and all that kind of stuff.
Is there a role for the institution, for example, that would allow them to look at and approve a profile?
Yeah, we'll jump right into that. Slightly ahead, but yeah, that's where we're going to, and that's where the manage organization comes in. I won't demo it right now, but you do have the ability to remove that request, whether it's pending or whether it's approved. So I'm going to switch over to this POC account. So this is just to kind of show you. Going back to it. This particular individual has a pending request. They also have connections. They're participants with 2 organizations. I'm going to go ahead and hit manage organization here.
That's a question. Just to confirm that you said this POC role.
Yeah.
The expanded AOR is still going to continue.
Yes.
The concept of this would apply to them as well.
Yes, exactly. You would have the ability to approve as well. I think we're calling expanded AOR organization administrator. That's our updated terminology for that. Basically, it's a landing page. They come in here, they can see the SAM data. This is basic information that somebody who had a pending request and they are approved, this is what they would see as well. They may not get to see these options up here, like manage participants and roles and S2S. Obviously, it's all permission-based. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. And to give you an overview of this page, you've got 2 major components, the roles and the participants themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to search for that. And it's actually right here, but I want to demonstrate the filter aspect. I actually think the filter part is really cool. This is that account that I just added right now. It's the only one. Everyone else is active, and you can see it's pending. But just to demonstrate the filter is basically, number 1, it's in real time. Number 2, it's very, very powerful. It allows you to search on any permutation. If you're looking for, I'll put my first name in. You can see all the accounts that I've created. If I were to say, you know what, I want to search for Tamer and I want to search for a status pending, no results show up. If I want to search for Tamer and put, partial phone number in, well, they all have the same one, but if I were to add one more, you can see no matching results are found. So I think it's pretty cool, and it really is flexible, fast, and easy. And the future is where we're going to start to implement a lot more options, bulk changes and things like that. Having this capability and getting to the people you're looking for, I think is incredibly powerful. So for this particular person, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to deny them. So they have a pending request, and I just want to show the denial. And that's pretty much it. It's very simple, straightforward, as long as you've got the permissions. And I will flip back. So just to show you, flip back to this account, just to kind of refresh that. You'll notice that that individual no longer has that, that request in their queue. In the future, obviously, we'll have notifications and emails. We'll let that person know, hey, your request has been denied. But I still want to add that person. So just to demonstrate the add participants functionality. So I'm going to go in here. And I'm going to just hit 9. There's a couple extra accounts. 9 is actually the first name. So what you're looking at is a search for users across the system that I want to add to my organization. And I believe it's the last one.
So does that mean these are just all accounts that exist?
Yes.
Across Grants.gov?
In fact, a little bit of debate internal. It literally is active accounts, inactive accounts. We were debating whether we just allow people to add, let's say, inactive folks to your system, to your organization. They can't necessarily do anything, but it does allow you to kind of see them, know that their status is inactive, and then you can make a decision whether you want to ping them to, hey, fix your account. I want you to participate in this workspace, or et cetera. Some things that we're kind of looking at. So we just added this individual. I want to go back, just kind of refresh that screen. And now this person, you notice they no longer have the pending status. They now are basically affiliated with that Aries organization. Very straightforward. Questions?
Is the sequence always that the individual has to pre-register and then be approved, or can the person with the role actually add someone who hasn't yet?
Yeah, so
Sorry,
just,
let me finish the thought. Were you going to ask if you could add someone that does not have an account? Like
okay.
Somebody that doesn't have an account.
Yeah. We are contemplating that, and that's one of our features. So thanks for finishing it. Yeah, we're contemplating adding that feature to it.
And you'll see a little bit of that in the slide as well.
thank you for the plug.
But I mean, ultimately, right, you wouldn't be able to add, you might be able to invite them to come create a Grants.gov account, at which point you could add them to yours.
It's their responsibility to complete the profile.
Yeah. Well, we have to work out the exact user experience for that, but somebody must have a Grants.gov account to be added.
Okay.
I forgot to add one component. It's always very implicit, but this is our interface right here to SAM. So we're getting SAM data in near real time. We would like to make it as real time as possible. So whenever there's a change in SAM, we get it into our system immediately. So when we're searching here, if I were to actually just put 2, it comes back with all the organizations that we've retrieved from SAM. So this is one of the interfaces we have to that data. And this is, again, you can search by the corporation name, or you can search by DUNS number. See if anything comes back. Oh, there we go, 9.2.
This is all organizations in SAM?
Yes.
Or just active?
These are just active organizations, I believe. So I want to go back to, and as I said before, this is how we're kind of shaping things. The menu-wise, you've got the accounts, affiliations. We're kind of contemplating which direction to go, especially from the UX perspective. When you have an affiliation, you can click this Manage Organization button here, and that kind of takes you, deeper into that organization. We also have a page dedicated to show you all the organizations that you are affiliated with and that you have elevated permissions for. We're leaning towards kind of getting rid of this and consolidating it down into that one page, just less clicks for the individual. But just in case anyone had any thoughts on that. But diving a little bit deeper, the last thing I wanted to show you is the custom roles. So if you notice here, I've actually, and I'll just zoom in a little bit. The system has right now 4 default roles: the EBIS POC, the org admin, the extended AOR, the standard AOR, and workspace manager. If you notice here, earlier I added a custom role here. What we've allowed is the ability to obviously disable, not only disable default roles, but also disable custom roles as well. So in this case, I've made this one inactive. I can take the org admin and disable that one as well. Looks like I may have run into permission issues. So we'll try the AOR. There we go. Or you can re-enable it again, depending on what you want, or you can obviously remove that particular custom. Just showing you how the custom roles work. It's very, very straightforward. I don't think there's much delta for what currently exists. And you just map it over to the permissions that you need. And that's it. Very straightforward. And again, same permutations. Disabled, you can delete it and re-enable it again. We're currently building out the roles, assigning of the roles, but there would be an option down here similar to how you have the participants here, where you can select or deselect the roles that you want to add to that particular individual. And that's pretty much it for the affiliations and managed organizations. Federal agencies, we're currently building it out. So just really, really in 10 seconds, this is what it looks like from a high level perspective. We will basically be consolidating this page into the affiliations. So when you come to affiliations, you'll have your organization affiliations, you'll have your federal agency affiliations if you happen to have both. And if I were to dive a little bit deeper, right now, this is how we are shaping it, where you've got kind of like the agency information. You can create sub-agencies. You can edit the details here, manage the grantors. And this is all on the left-hand side is kind of like your menu option of the agencies that I have access to. Again, very, very brief. We're currently working on this. And that's it. Questions? Yes?
I just have a quick general question. Down the road when this comes to, I'm hoping that all of us are going to be migrated to this.
Yes.
Okay, good. Don't want to go ahead.
Yeah.
Not me.
Great.
Other thoughts or questions? Everyone loved it. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. That's it for myself. Thanks.
Is anyone taking advantage of the current customer list yet?
So I think there was a break plan between. Do we just want to plow ahead, or do we actually want to take a physical break? I want to just throw that out to the group.
Why don't we go ahead and take the break?
All right, everyone needs a.
So, let's say 10 minutes, so we'll be back at 3:05.
Thank you.
And I can introduce Daniel here, who has brilliantly concocted what we have on the screen at the moment.
Hi, I'm Daniel Smith. I think it's the first time I've met a lot of you, so thank you for having us here. And we're going to just continue on with the demo. Any questions? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and continue on with the part 2 of the transformation demo here. This screen right now is the opportunity search screen here. So this is a screenshot from our dev environment of the search screen here. So has a simplified kind of user interface here. So it does have kind of one box you can see in the screenshot there where you can type in keywords, you can perform research, you can type in keywords. It does provide some type ahead and some auto suggestions that you can select from or kind of ignore. You can go ahead and then perform your search, and then you'll have the results come back from there. From there, if you wanted to narrow down your search more, then you have the ability to use the facets you see on the left-hand side to kind of further filter out your results. Additionally, we do have kind of try to improve the relevancy of search results as well. So we are using an algorithm and a partial search matching algorithm to return search results back there. So it won't just return exact searches, but things that are kind of partial or light matches. And then we'll continue to kind of refine and tune that algorithm too with the feedback from users like yourself. But this is the opportunity search. So we would go here, search for the opportunity, and then you can drill into the opportunity and apply. And that's kind of the next part that we're going to be going into here. So this is just a slide for the apply demo of which you'll see. So I'm going to take you through kind of some different steps here, but involved around creating that workspace there. Some of the things that you do that you see there, as well as kind of completing the workspace, the validation, checking for errors, and things like that. But that's kind of the plan for the demo there. Okay. Some other questions, then we'll go ahead and jump into the demo. Bring it up here, and then folks on the phone, we are muted. If you have issues hearing us at all, Meredith or I, just let us know. But so far we've seen where where Tamara showed us how you could kind of register, and then you could affiliate users to an organization who's seen the search. And now we're logged in here to the My Workspaces page where you can see all of the workspaces. We can go ahead and create a new workspace that we're going to go through here. So from here, you can go ahead and enter a funding opportunity number here, and then you can name your workspace here and put application filing name. You can just put in here an example here, and then we scroll down, kind of picks up where Tamara left off here, where you can link your workspace to an organization here. So if we select this, then it'll show all of the organizations that you were affiliated with. After you've gone through kind of Tamara's process, where we show kind of the request for the organization affiliation, as well as the approval process there. So from this.
And just 2 side notes, if Daniel,
Sure.
if you don't mind, scroll.
Sure, of course.
Just a moment. You will see the opportunity package ID. This is commensurate to what is working in the current system as that shortcut. If you already know your FON or your opportunity package ID, you can just copy and paste in. This is the same function that would work if you, but would be pre-populated if you were creating a workspace from the opportunity information page. So if you've searched, you would see the same modal, this screen here, but you wouldn't be entering specifically this information. So you can enter either the exact funding opportunity number or package ID as it works in the current system. And you still have the required application filing name, but the new piece here is instead of it being required to actually select if you are using this for an organization or a individual quote profile in the current system, you have an opportunity to do this later. And that means it's an undefined workspace or undecided workspace. In other terms, you will figure it out before you submit. You won't be able to submit as an undecided or undefined workspace. We're still playing around with the terminology a little bit, but this allows you to continue to work on the application without that barrier.
Okay. Thank you for that. So it's showing the do this later, and then like Meredith said, have the ability to submit as an individual.
I'm sorry. So if the opportunity doesn't allow individual submitters, would there be some indication to the user that they?
Great question. We've been working through the business processes around it. One of the options we're just double checking right now on 508 compliance is how to handle graying out the option. But if the opportunity was not available to an individual, you would not be able to select it.
Great, thank you.
You would still be shown it, is our current expectation, so that the user knows that that is an option and not having that confusion. Go ahead.
Would ESPC or expanded AOR be able to pull like undecided and affiliated from that side? Or does the affiliation only have to be done from the managed workspace side?
Another great question. Yes, so if you have said do this later or whatever we end up using as terminology there, you can associate it to another workspace and to another organization's workspace, for example.
And it can push from this side or pull from the AOR side?
I'm not sure about the push and pull in that sense.
I'm an expanded AOR,
okay.
And I've got a PI who created their own workspace and didn't affiliate it, and they don't know how to do that. Can I do that for them?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as you have the permission to associate a workspace to an organization, then yes.
Okay.
And the expanded AOR.
Within the workspace, not you would have to log into the workspace to do that. Right.
Yeah, but an expanded AOR would have access to any workspace. So a standard AOR, yes, you would have to be a participant.
Well, yeah, I have access to things that are affiliated with my organization right now.
Yes.
But if I wanted to see an unaffiliated workspace, I would have to either have the workspace ID or some kind of global.
But it doesn't belong to your organization,
Yeah.
so how could you?
It's a use case that we have to think.
I'd like to hear more about this. Do you mind if we take?
I mean, you guys get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
You do, but there's no handles to pull it into you if you don't know about it and it's not affiliated to you.
Right.
That would be inappropriate for you to be able to reach out and get it, because they haven't said that it belongs to you.
Right.
So I think it's on them to suggest an ability.
Okay.
Because of the data that's being held in.
Right.
Exactly.
That's why some organizations create all their workspaces for their faculty, not something that's scalable, but it's a control issue.
Yeah.
So we are trying to maintain that control. If that
My question's a
answers.
little bit outside that, but I won't take any of the time.
I'd be curious to hear more.
Thing is, from an organization in that case, you wouldn't even know that workspace exists.
Yeah. Well, that's
If you have a unique ID, and how do you?
you might not want to, but you have to. Okay.
There's a question on the Zoom chat too. Tam. So I don't know if we want to save that for later or
Yeah, is it fine, maybe if we continue on and kind of circle back around that question with that? That'd be fine with everyone there?
Interesting.
Yeah. You know, that was a great comment too with the scenario. Maybe we'd definitely love to learn more about that. Maybe we could kind of talk through that after.
So just real quick, so Tammy was saying she'd like to, I would like that if the grant, if I grant approval to someone with P role to automatically have workspace manager rights. I would like that. So, okay.
Tammy, if you could provide some more context.
The problem is that person can have multiple profiles.
Yeah.
You don't know that they're looking into.
Tammy, did you want to speak to that or? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Tammy, if you could just provide a little bit more context via chat, we can respond to that at a later point.
Okay, I'll do that.
Sounds good. Thanks for the feedback there. So we go ahead, we can select a link to an organization, select an organization we're affiliated to, and you can go ahead and create that workspace there. And then once we create the workspace, then it'll take us to the overview page here. And when we scroll down, we kind of see some key information in a summary of this workspace here.
So I know the screen display is a little bit hard to see here, but you will see some information that's, we have very light gray lines on WebEx and Zoom displays. It looks much clearer on your own individual device. We do have a missing field right now at the moment. It's the DUNS number. It's just because we're currently in the middle of development, in the middle of a sprint. So that's something that's going through development actually in the last couple days. So ignore that for a moment, but you will see it as a cleaner UI, the idea being that it's easier to find the information you need immediately accessible. So if you have any thoughts around information that you would like to see here, please do feel free to share it with us on the papers that you have in front of you as well.
Yes, any feedback would be great. We'll definitely take it into consideration. So if we scroll up here, once we're inside the workspace, you can see that we have a left-hand nav. So we have the overview that we're taken to right when you create that workspace, gives you the summary. We can also go to the forms, which will show all of the forms within that workspace as well. There. And then we'll be coming back into the forms as well when we're kind of going through filling out the workspace, but kind of wanted to show you that summary there. And then there's a task there, and that's kind of for kind of the vision in there, so that will still be completed there, as well as the instructions.
And there was a comment earlier around when are you going to get a notification if a form changes in your package or something along those lines. That is actually, or when do you know when you have to do something in your specific application because it's your responsibility. That's very much what we were considering with tasks. So it would be something you would assign to a given person in your workspace as a participant and give them your potentially own deadline. But again, this is very much forward-thinking vision, something that you would be able to control and monitor what's going on with your given active applications at that point in time or proposals at that point in time.
And then we also have an activity history. So when we click on there, we can kind of see the complete history and kind of audit trail of this workspace of kind of all the actions and updates that took place there, the time that it took place, kind of what was changed, and the user that did that. This is the workspace we just created, so there's that one line that it was created, but this would kind of have that comprehensive history of that workspace there.
And we do expect parity with the current system as well.
Would the item change include the form that was worked on?
Yes, in this case, we're mocking up a little bit of the data, but details, you would have an ellipses or something along the like. If there were details associated, so if someone actually had a change in, let's say, a copied form or a reused form, you would know where it came from, what workspace it came from, but not in a way that would crowd the space.
And
is this equivalent to the history that grant forms have access to on workspaces today?
that grantors have access to. I would have to,
Grantors have access.
yeah, then yes. Then yes.
Yes. And this is kind of a example that doesn't have a lot of information because it's the workspace that we just created. We're going to be going into another workspace and we can look at that and I'll have some more information as well. Might give a little more context. But the next we want to go into is the manage participants. So this is where you can go into your workspace and then manage your participants. So you come in here, you can see all the different participants, their role, what they have access to here. It's listed. And then from here, you have the ability to add participants as well. So once you go on action, then you can, a modal will appear here where you can search for and then add different participants. And then from here, we do have a screenshot with some results because this is a model that is currently in development. But if you did want to search for participants, you would search for it, and then we're bringing up a wireframe here for the results there. And this is kind of with our wireframe depicts here.
Can we make it a little bigger? I'm not sure if there's a way.
No.
So essentially, you will get the same information. We've consolidated the two add participant features from two different entry points into one. So you will still see, gosh, sorry, that's also, it's fine. At least that people in the room can see. You will still see the first name, last name, email address, and username. Workspace role is a working title right now, but the concept being that you would be able to see something related to the organization. In this case, we are presuming that this workspace has been created for an organization. So you would have the option to limit the search to users in the organization and therefore be able to search by name.
So this is all people that are registered in Grants.gov when you typed in chaplain. Because I see the click box that says limit to my organization. Are you concerned about email harvesting?
We're playing around a little bit with that on the PII side. We've had conversations. There's a very good chance that we will limit that to last name. In the current system, it is allowing you to search on first name or last name only when it's within the organization. So it might be something similar to that to keep the parity. Or it might be something that we remove first name altogether because there are enough John Does and Jane Smiths.
But you could still be harvesting email with just typing in the letter A.
Theoretically,
Typing in the letter E, I can get everybody's email address.
At the end of the day, anyone can, I don't want to speak out of turn, but there are enough ways that people are going to get that information anyway. But in this case, we are focusing on trying to keep the information and data secure. So.
Understand the concern. So we'll take it back.
So we'll go back there. So we're just showing you what it would look like when we search for participants to add. There was an earlier comment, I think, when Tamara was giving his demo about being able to invite different participants to the Grants.gov system. So down here is kind of just the UI layout. Again, this functionality is still being developed, and that this is kind of a future functionality that we were looking at after the May evaluation release. But this does show kind of what that layout could look like when you want to invite someone that doesn't have a Grants.gov account and invite them to the system and invite them in so they can create that profile and go through that process that Tamara showed earlier there. So if we close that and then kind of come back here to the managed participants, this is still being development, but we're showing here that there's kind of different actions that you can take for the participant.
Yeah, and some of our alignment has actually changed in the last hour. So again, I apologize. We are very much in the middle of development, and no harm, no foul. But we will be changing some of the language here. So workspace role, for example, that may or may not say something like individual. It will more likely be aligned to the terms that the registration is using. So something like if your account has permissions for a given organization as a standard AOR, you would have AOR listed, and it might not say workspace role, it might say organization role or something to that effect. So that's in flux. The other piece here is access to. So we do have a really big enhancement that hopefully will enable a lot more collaboration in the system. And that is enabling access to selective forms, meaning you right now have an option for all forms access or all forms except for budget. This will enable, as a default for the organization, a third option, which would be selective forms, meaning nothing by default is, no forms by default are enabled. So you actually have to select the forms. And that's something that can be managed here as Daniel is pulling up. There's an icon for the actions. The ellipses is something we're using across the site as a drop-down sort of hopefully more intuitive option. And here we go. If you don't mind pulling up that screenshot. So this is actually still in development as well, but this is what we're imagining, something along the lines of a checkbox. So you could have one subform access, you could have multiple form access, you could have all forms access, regardless of what the default is set as. Users with certain privileges and permissions would be able to do this and reduce or include more forms. And that means someone like an AOR or an organization administrator, as Tamara pointed out earlier, that's your expanded AOR role, or someone with a custom role that has the permission to do it.
So the next thing that we want to go to is when we go to the workspaces. So this is the My Workspaces page, and we're able to create workspaces here. We're also able to find some existing workspaces that we've worked on that we're interested in. We do have a filter by workspaces option here, so we can open that up and then gives us the ability to filter by different things like application status, the owner, any date ranges. If we wanted to see the application status of created in progress for those workspaces, then we are able to filter by those and then kind of narrow down our workspace results by that, and then view them on this table here, the workspace progress, deadline, and status.
So you'll see as well progress and status. So we did get a lot of feedback around progress. We can talk about this more when we get to the forms page in a moment, but you'll see a help tip icon next to that column that's actually in implementation right now. So I don't want to make you click on it and see what happens. But you will see that there is a definition of what progress is calculated by, and that was based on feedback that we got from the FTP open session in May. So it gives you more visibility into the Grants.gov validation at an earlier stage, so you know in a quick shot where you are in your application's progress.
Before you leave the screen, who has the power to delete?
So actually that's probably going to turn into an actions and ellipses column. And so the delete is less prominent. Yes, we heard that feedback as well. So we did some one-on-ones between May and July, and we did hear that as an overwhelming. We don't want to be able to delete a workspace. We never want to delete a workspace. Why would you ever delete a workspace? So we do understand the concern there, and archiving is something we're also talking through because of the notion of archiving maybe not being a true archive that takes longer to retrieve or something along those lines, but not being available. So that's something that we're talking through those statuses as well about, since archive would be a status and is in the current system.
The option to reuse forms, is that something you're?
Yeah, we have that functionality in. We can absolutely show that. Once we go into a workspace. And you can reuse a workspace too, but probably not for me. So the filters as well. I know we hear a lot about search from the user communities that we've spoken to thus far, including, of course, FDP. One of these is that the filters that we proposed were maybe not as valuable as we expected or hopefully thought they might be. Kind of like throwing spaghetti at a wall. But we did learn that customizable or personalized filters would be very valuable. So something instead of workspace owner, I don't know if you click over it, you'll see a bunch of just mocked up names here. This would be replaced with something like PI or PD, or actually based on the form data. And that would be specific to probably an SF424. Date range right now is focused on the deadline date range. That's something that could be replaced with another personalized filter such as agency name. So that's something that we're looking for as a potential enhancement after December.
So we can go ahead and we filtered on the workspace. We did create a workspace here that we wanted to show you. So we're going to go ahead and drill into that. Once we drill in, again, we get the overview of the summary that you see. Sure. Sure.
Okay. So the that filtering is administrative driven. Faculty want things like keywords and other things related to the scientific topic, which would be much more valuable than dates and PIs.
And I couldn't agree more. No, it's very valuable feedback. So we do have a search bar that would be more of a keyword return search of your workspaces or your applications, proposals, whichever term you choose. And that would allow you to ideally bring at least a couple key metadata terms in. Whether or not that would be able to search an attachment is a little bit more difficult, but it's something we can definitely consider.
Brian may have answered the question, but one of the chat questions is whether you can delete a workspace, and it looks like you have the trash back.
Yes, we can. What we're trying to communicate, we're going to make that ability a little bit less prominent, so that way somebody might not go delete it. But we're not taking away the ability for someone to delete it.
Correct. Yes, you will still have the feature. It's just we might not make it so obvious.
Right, and it should be status dependent, right? So if it's been submitted and all that, then it should be less deletable versus a draft, which you should be able to delete freely if you created it.
So are we talking about this all today or after? Depends. I know.
That's a good question.
I'm sure.
And there's also retention requirements.
Yeah.
Well, do you want hard delete?
I probably want to talk to it. So I don't know if they want to say anything.
There's someone in a panic and doing things last minute, you do not want hard delete.
Right. Yeah.
11th hour.
The place where hard delete would be useful would be if two people started the same workspace on the same project, and you really needed to just get rid of one. And that, but it should be like, are you sure? Would be a nice second screen to come up.
So we do actually have that. We do have that prompt, that second check, but that's absolutely something that we'll take into mind between the two situations. I know there's a lot on the opportunity planning or on the grantor side that would inform whether or not it's even allowed to be submitted by more than one applicant in a given organization or institution. So,
is there any backup for that, like an archive, so that if you accidentally?
Well, yeah, exactly. We'll definitely look into that one as well.
So there was a question about kind of there's a confirmation when you delete the workspace. So yes, there is a built-in confirmation asking if you're sure if you want to proceed when you delete it. Now, we believe it is a hard delete, but we can kind of take that feedback in and kind of the different scenarios.
It should pop up in the opposite panels.
Yeah, if you did it 30 or 60 days down the line where it actually really goes away.
Start if it's aren't moving in.
Yeah, start there. Tell them, yeah.
Instead of coming up with yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, switch. Okay, take that.
Okay.
The feedback. That's great feedback. You like? Yeah. Defense there. Okay. Understood. Thank you. No, great feedback. Thank you. We definitely really appreciate all the feedback there. Okay. So for this demo, we're going to go ahead and drill into this workspace that we created. I think that there was kind of a question maybe on kind of activity history and then what would show there. So this is a workspace that we've been kind of messing with a little bit in preparation for this demo. So I think there was an earlier question about is form part of this, and yes, it will depict the form that was edited, kind of the action, the user, and the date and the timestamp when that action took place as well there. So if we go to the forms, this is
Can I ask a
yes,
question,
please.
About the history?
Sure,
So
of course.
it really just shows when it was touched. It's not really going to show you what was changed.
That's actually it. The details would be similar to that ellipses you've seen on the other pages. And when you hover over it, it will, or when you click on it, it will show you the extent of what actually was changed if necessary. So many of the current details columns are empty in the current system, so you don't need it everywhere. But that allowed us to have a little bit more spacing for the layout. So that was the reason the design decision was made, which is not to say that it's concrete and cannot be changed based on user feedback.
I just wanted to point out that you're getting a fair number of chat questions.
Ooh.
Pretty much we've gotten
Trash button. Okay. Yes, absolutely. L. Schultz, appreciate it.
I'm mostly talking to Tammy about.
Appreciate the
We
feedback.
all accidentally friended someone on Facebook we didn't intend to friend, so that's kind of what I saw happening.
Are you looking to delete?
We do have mock-ups I can show you after the demo, I promise. There is an intended different display for the delete trash can instead, to replace the delete trash can.
So we're going to go back to our forms here, and then been working with Ed to kind of show kind of what's our relevant short forms to show during this demo. So here we have our forms that are displayed as part of this workspace here. We're going to go ahead and drill into the R&R, SF424 R&R, and kind of show that layout here. So this is our web form. We can go ahead and expand that and then kind of go through and see all the different sections that are here. Once we scroll down, we are able to fill out the form in there. We're able to start to enter in data and then able to show real-time validation in there, the green checkbox there, that the value that we're entering does pass the validation. So it gives that real-time message to the user there. If we're able to
Fields, are you able to type directly into them as well?
That is something that is on our backlog, yes.
Okay, yeah, I hate tape pickers.
We've heard this from more than one person, including Ed. We have already implemented that on the filter, so it's just a matter of implementing that on the forms.
We're able to click here, return to the top of the page, which is helpful. It's a long form. We're able to check for errors for this form here. And once you do that, then it'll show you an error summary at the top of the page, giving you all of the different sections. If there are any errors there, we're able to close that at any time because it takes some real estate, but we're able to bring that back as well. We're able to drill down into any of these sections with the hyperlink here. So if we select that, it'll take us directly to that section. If that section was expanded, it will automatically expand there. And then anything that doesn't pass the validation, then it'll show you here. So in this example, it shows you that the legal name is required. I'll show you that position.
And the hover over instruction as well.
Yes, correct.
Which needs a little reformatting, but.
Yeah.
Any questions here?
All right, I have to ask. So it looks like the instructions are showing under the fields.
Oh, there's a hover over. So
Just like under legal name, it's got red text that says.
oh, for here.
Yeah. Is that the intent? Is that the tip would show there? Okay, it's going to look very ugly for NIH applications.
So our hope is that if Daniel, if you don't mind scrolling down to something
As I was saying,
address.
there's some looks of both sides.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. How about descriptive title? So if you start typing in,
It just goes away.
as long as it has characters in, it wouldn't show that red.
What I'm saying is the tips that we provide on our agency forums aren't very helpful. It says go look someplace else that you won't actually be linking to, things like that. So you may just want to look at a subset of things to see how helpful that would be. And also the agencies have the ability to add additional instructions. So having that partial instruction there will actually hurt some of our applicants because they won't get the full instruction and think that they do have it.
So Ed and I were talking about this probably about 7 or 8 months ago now, trying to play around with reduced instructions that were more plain English, but hopefully.
Or if we had some ability through a web service or something that the agencies could give the complete instructions and then show the complete instructions, that's awesome, right? Because then we
Grantor-based instructions would be fantastic.
Then the system-to-system folks could use that web service and they could show it in their systems and we could show it in the system and everybody would be looking at the same stuff, which would be nice.
Absolutely something we have on our radar.
Thank you.
I know, thank you for the comment as well. Thank you for clarifying. I think for May, we have a little bit reduced scope, unfortunately. But you've brought up a very valuable point that we've been talking about for some time. How do we make it easier to, and the progress calculation when we get there will also trigger that same sentiment.
But if you can kind of think of that in terms of like web services to do some of that stuff, it does.
If there's a way to pull it in.
That you get with that service rather than just having it in the space.
And can I ask why you decided to use text to denote your required fields as some sort of a visual indicator? I mean, to me, it would be much easier to have a visual indicator that's starting the data required instead of having to read the text.
So there were 2 reasons. Speaking on behalf of our design team, the first was we did want the visual indicator on the section level. We wanted that to be very immediate, very obvious. And the second was for maintaining the consistency with the current system and the error messages that do exist. We wanted to make sure that that information was still available, which goes back to the conversation that Ed and I started probably now about 7 or so months ago.
Sorry, so this is an error message.
Yeah.
Indicator of required.
Yeah.
So I think I just want to make sure we're not mixing things up here. I think that Debbie asked the question.
Oh, sorry, I thought I heard error.
Yeah, so I think
Thank you, Brian.
the way the system communicates required but optional is not to be data error messages. These are error messages when somebody doesn't fill in a data required.
Yes.
Correct.
Sure. Yeah. Well, let me exit this one. Let me just go into another form and click the check for errors there.
We do, but you can. We haven't instituted all of the messages at this point when you're trying to exit via breadcrumbs or navigation.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me know. I mean, I exited the form and then I came back to it, and now it didn't have the check for errors. But I think the question, we can take it back when you're on the form. If you check for errors and you want all the validation messages to go away. They're in the same. We can take that back. No, we did the check for errors, and then it's just.
I think you have a different way. Look at how.
Okay, sure. No, that's great feedback.
It shows stuff on the whatever,
Mhm.
not on the every one, how you're going to get it.
Yep.
And if you click out of them, that is a look at what we did there. I think it's
Okay, sounds good. We'll take a look at that. But to the earlier question in there about what it looks like for the required versus the optional. So if it is required, then it'll just be a field like this, and then it won't say kind of optional there. So anything that doesn't denote that it's optional is required to answer that question there. So you can see here that the state application identifier is an optional field there. The federal identifier is required, and with agency routing identifier, optional.
And you're not seeing any red errors there yet because you have not touched those fields yet.
But that again is that's requiring that I read to make that determination right. It's like I have to read federal identifier, process the fact that it doesn't say optional behind it to know that that's required, as opposed to just there being a red asterisk or something besides the fields that are required.
So the reason for that was just one. From a UX UI perspective, the best practice we were told was, and we've discussed it a couple times over in various circumstances on the site, for a percentage majority on the required fields or a minority on the, in other terms, minority on the optional fields, you always want to show the majority without extra text and the minority with extra text. So if it was reversed, it would be 75% optional fields. You wouldn't have an optional annotation. But if it, and in that same case, if it was 25% required fields, you would only for that 25% required.
So there's a problem with that.
Right.
The required fields are required by the schema. Agency can't change that. But I can make something that's optional required and you're giving wrong information to the user.
Right. And you're coming, well, we're coming from a whole generation.
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by
The credential field is required for us. You're going to be displaying to them, the user, it's optional. Schema, but it's required by our instruction.
It's if-then validation is the term we've used.
Where we went the other way and said the required ones, that's required by the schema. I can't change that. So I can never give you wrong information. You'd never see wrong information on the screen.
And that goes back to the grammar validation piece, which is something we'd really like to pull in.
But it's not even, yeah, it's.
So we actually are improving the immediacy of errors, error messaging, so that you will see if on one form you answer yes, it's a renewal. You do have a required section now and specific fields on the PHS 398 cover page.
Schema or required
By the Grants.gov schema. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Are we talking about the Grants.gov schema or the XML schema?
So the user's not going to do an application because you put wrong information on our screen. That's the bottom line.
Optional, just give they won't.
We're not going to
I mean, I would look at that page.
And I just say, well, Grants.gov said it was optional, so you need to let us in. Yeah, we can talk about it offline.
Sure.
Somebody who wears English.
Yeah, and we've noted it as well.
Yeah. So no, that's great feedback. Thank you. We'll kind of take a look at that, and Diane, we're noting your feedback as well. So appreciate that. Any questions on the form in terms of validation before we move on? Now we're going to go back to the overview here, and then we're going to show you the check application we'll do here. So this is kind of the checking the application across your entire workspace, across all of your forms. Once you select that, then it'll do some different checks there. One is that it'll check the SAM registration to make sure that they're valid, and then it'll also do a cross-form errors check. So I think we're alluding to kind of that if-then validation across different forms. That would catch that there. So in this case, it is showing that there's a conflict between a value in the PHS 398 cover page supplement and the SF424 R&R, and then informing the user here as well. So you can see in your cross-form errors, and then below that, any incomplete mandatory forms that you still need to complete. I'll let you know there as well.
So that is an enhancement. We recognize the incomplete mandatory forms. You will also see other error titles with the underlines and big bolds. I believe that's our H2. That is something that you will see what you would expect to see in the current system. So it's not to negate anything that currently exists, but there is the incomplete mandatory forms addition to that, which is part of how we're handling right now. Mandatory or required forms as opposed to optional. Just more visibility.
Thanks for that context there. And then we'll come back out. Kind of one of the things that we wanted to show really just quickly, and then if there's time, we can kind of touch on the form reuse. Was a part of the demo, we can return back to that if everyone's fine with the time. But about managing the subforms here. So if there are forms in subforms, you are able to manage that. It will display the subforms that were created and let you know when it was updated by, that you performed different actions. You're able to come here and then add your subforms here. They will display, and then you're able to drill it down into any of the subforms and to enter in data for the subforms and manage them through there. So that's one thing that we wanted to just kind of quickly note as well. In terms of the forms reuse, we can
do it for 398.
Yeah. So we can go to a specific form that's in your workspace and then click on the reuse action there. And then you are able to select a workspace that has that form and then able to reuse that.
And just a little bit more detail, this modal is going to change. We recognize that it's not going to just be a drop down. There will be some sort of a search functionality. And the second field, form name for copy, you're not going to be able to change that. It's going to be point blank listed in the above text before the first field. So it won't just be a drop down, but the current logic is set up to allow a user to reuse any form that has any data in it from any other workspace.
Is that version specific?
It would be cross version. Right now it's version specific.
So yeah, like Meredith said, kind of in the process of tweaking that UI and kind of some of those details in that flow, but we were able to select the PHS cover page and then go through the reuse process and select a workspace that had that form and select that, and then it should pre-populate any of that data from that form into that form there display. So I think that was kind of just the initial part of our demo that we wanted to show. I don't know if there's any questions, or I don't know if you want to go to the chat. Sure. Sure.
You're getting the ability to download a form, fill it out offline, and upload that again. Is that right?
Correct. You're not losing PDFs. Workspace is not disappearing, although it may be retitled.
The icon, the lock icon, is that?
Instead of, so it's the same functionality of the lock unlock.
Okay.
And we have heard a little bit of feedback about making it a little bit more clear, larger, maybe in some cases.
I mean, I think once folks understand what it is, then it'll be clear for all of them. So.
Yes. Yes, and we're welcome to get feedback here, and as well as feedback from the evaluation release.
So you'll see a hypertip.
Could you go to the manage subforms again 1 second on the R&R subaward? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So then on the subform name, that's actually the name that they've given to that particular form.
Correct.
Is there a way to show the institution that goes with? I'm just thinking again that if you're doing, it would be very useful to be able to see that this is from MIT or this is from University of Kentucky or whatever. Yeah.
That's great feedback. Thank you for that. We can take that in. But right now, it's whatever name that they.
Yeah, it could be like UT, Austin, say subform 1AAC. But yeah, otherwise we could create a column or something. I'm just taking notes here.
Yes, it's something that we could take back to the team and look at that, maybe a display out there. But I think the earlier question was about the lock and the unlock. So we work for the subform as the forms here. Like Meredith mentioned, if you hover over, it will let you know if you want to lock or unlock that there, as well as when you drill into a new form to edit that, then it will automatically lock that form as well. And then once you're in that form, you are able to unlock that form when you leave. And if I was in the form and there tried to enter in, it would let her know that I was in there and that it was locked, and she would just be able to view that form, not make any changes to it.
So that's very similar to the current read-only feature. We're just enabling it on the web form. So it's a preview-only mode or a read-only mode.
So then in that case, will the lock icon show who is locked by?
Yes, that's correct. So when you go into there, then it would just say that if I was in that form, I'm in Meredith ready to go, and it would say that Daniel Smith is in that form, and then I have it locked.
Is there a timeout on it so if the person leaves their computer with the form open?
Good question. So we talked about this recently as well, the potential for unlocking something, if a specific form or even workspace as a whole, if it's something that a user has stepped away from their computer, their local desktop or laptop or device is what's disconnected. Maybe the internet goes out because you're in a conference center or what have you, or on a flight. For example, your plate's taking off and your hotspot goes away. Something along those lines that potentially within 5 minutes or 10 minutes you could disable that unlock or disable the lock so that it's unlocked. It's something.
Downloads PDF, you probably want to keep it like locked for some long during the time. So anyway, I think I could think through the use case for any kind of auto unlock and really all that.
Yeah.
Playing around with
it. Community rules in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions or any items that you guys wanted to see today?
Anyone on the phone? Oh, got one. When data is shared across forms, how does locking work? Ben, do you mind providing a little bit more context? Is there a specific use case, for example, that you're concerned about?
Are they able to speak?
So if I download a form in the clock and I change a piece of data that's populated on another form, when I upload it, does that trickle down to the other forms and it realize and update the subsequent forms?
And we're following existing system functionality for any of those behaviors at this point. Just to clarify, as Diane just said, that if you upload the form, it would behave the same way as it had in the current system. Same data appears on two forms. Do you have to edit?
Location of the data, he has the source location, and then we populate to any other PC.
Right, if you have the right on the source, you put it in the source, it's over. That's the next one.
So for those on the phone who might not be able to hear so far away from the speakers, just to recap what Matthias and Diane just said, in the current system and the behavior of the forms is forward populated data will be treated as an overwrite for the destination form. So if the source is form SF424 R&R and the destination is PHS 398 cover page or human subjects or what have you, then we'll only have that read-only field in the destination, and it will be overwritten when you upload the source form. So the source form's data will populate the destination form when you upload it, even if someone else has changed it.
Test press.
Exactly. And no, Ben, you would not need to have edit rights to both because in both the current system and the way we are handling the transformation system to have that parity, you will not need to have edit rights to both because the destination is a read-only field, so you would never actually be able to edit that even if you had edit rights to the rest of the form. Anyone else?
I feel like I'm like, sure. So I think right now I can see in the column this unlocked eye. Is there any way, I mean, again, without hovering over it, I just go to a display of the forms, I should be able to see who's got them locked, I would think.
Is that something you'd like to see as part of the hover, or who locked it?
Yeah, because when they're calling me, I'm like in troubleshooting. They're in panic mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good feedback. So you just want to be able to come to this and to see which forms are locked, which ones are not locked, and if they're locked, you want to see clearly who it's locked by without any kind of action with your mouse. So, okay, no, that's great feedback. We can definitely take that.
Other people could have been locked by
Like we can add or remove columns, right?
In this case, it might make sense for her role to be able to do that, but I might not want to see it all in the spot.
I think that's something we probably need to take back and think about that as a backlog. Obviously, the ideal to provide the flexibility for everyone to be able to customize it to their own tastes, right?
Would you mind talking a bit more about the user testing? You mentioned when we started the session that there were some institutions that were participating. Could you maybe talk about that process, and if others are interested in testing, how they get on the list and create their profile for the institution?
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful question. So essentially what we've done so far with our user testing was part of the FTP open session. We did a working group activity, about 45 people maybe, in 6 different groups. And I know we're over time, so I apologize to anyone. If you need to leave, feel free. But what we're looking forward to is actually having more kind of intimate conversations, which is what we did between May and July.
Real quick, was the question, how do you get all this participate in external evaluation release?
So that everyone's aware that if they didn't participate in that original session, how they can help out.
So we had this survey that went out probably about 2 years ago now. And that was how we cultivated that first group of more one-on-one sessions. But we're looking for those more intimate engagements. But it's unclear at this point what that's going to look like. But to get on the list, there is a second side of that little piece of paper in front of you.
I think we're still figuring out the way that we're going to solicit the volunteers for the external evaluation release. And that, for now, we're using kind of Ed Calamag as our kind of field for that. I think there's a slide here towards the end of this presentation that says the POC. So if you're interested, I mean, I think for now, email would suffice. But, you know, we're still, I think, figuring out exactly how that, you know, the participation will work. Are we going to give specific use cases and threads to people to exercise certain parts of the system?
Yeah, the reason I asked, just wondering if you're short on those folks, or if you already have adequate representation.
I think so. Yes, that's a good point. I think, you know, of course, on the response, we're going to have a limited persons, limited resources to invite to come to the space of the environment with testing and it's not, you don't screen that those people, so it's definitely different types of organizations from their space, so people are users, some of the campaigns of the and researching what it is, and this we're gonna teach them these people, and so we're gonna invite those people, and certainly they can volunteer, but volunteer doesn't mean that we're gonna accept all those people. Right. So we're gonna mix and match those different types of use of different types. That's what we're trying to do. Today's demonstration, I think it's kind of a little bit early for us to do the demonstration of this our transformation system. So I want to bring it up a little bit of the frameworks coming down and all those. We're gonna have we're gonna have our FTP meeting. Our external evaluation is sometime in May. So in next FTP meeting, I hope that we are pretty good shape in the one system, and then do the demonstration from the start to end. So probably I already talked to Teddy about it. We might want to have some special sessions. So not just a chat group, but we're going to have a special sessions. And then we're going to do the demonstration on the special sessions. So we might try to find the special sessions. And then we also find that meeting for volunteer for testing. And then we're going to collect at the organization type where they came from, so we can just find out that we have a line base on our testing. we believe that we right now talking about 2 months of testing. We have a couple of different sessions, scheduled sessions on the 2 months time frame. So session 1, session 2, session 3. So we have to collect those different sessions and information, and then we're gonna go from there. So that's our aim to have all those information.
So to follow up on that, we passed around these feedback sheets. So if you can fill them out and send them back to us and just leave them afterwards. We'll also send a soft copy out so you guys can fill them out. Those are all dried up. So then we'll reach out to you with further information. You're saying about, if there's special kind of users we're looking for. So definitely workspace users, since it's all UI based. So that would be extremely helpful, because I don't know, the majority of participants in JAD are SQS. So whoever we can recruit that uses workspace, that would be helpful. AORs, faculty. So if you guys have any suggestions or want to pass this on, that would be helpful. We're also going to reach out to nonprofit organizations, so non-research institutions, so that we kind of get definitely like a broad flavor of all the user types.
By that time, the government shutdown will be over.
Yeah.
Please, I hope so.
I like your optimism.
Can we also give you the feedback sheet back during FTP?
Yeah, I'll be buzzing around tomorrow.